coming up on today's show.
Between my training and my children, I'm very well prepared.
I mean, what's probably the number one issue that comes into play with organizing families?
Okay, what's going on this week? Who has projects? Who's carpooling with who needs a ride where? Is there any traveling going on with myself or my husband's work? And so we just kind of go through our schedule so everybody knows what's happening for the week.
Organizing families today on Keeping You Organized. Welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we're going to tackle a big subject, organizing families. Is that even possible? Well, when I think about professional organizers who could probably do that, I think of Amy Tokus. And welcome, Amy, to Keeping You Organized.
Thank you for having me, John.
Are you really up for the task? I mean, seems like kind of a big task to organize families, but I know we could probably go 100 different directions on this too, but are you ready to do it?
I'm ready to do it.
Okay, awesome.
Between my training and my children, I'm very well prepared.
Yes, I would say, yeah, you have several kids, I know, and so do I think. So I'm actually very excited about hearing some of these tips because I'm sure I can put them into effect as soon as we're done with the podcast here today. But anyway, where are we going to start? I mean, what's probably the number one issue that comes into play with organizing families?
I think the number one issue is communication, like really getting the communication channels set up and formed so that expectations are clear and kids know what's needed, and also some formal communication on finding out what's going on so things don't slip through the cracks.
Well, don't you think today, I mean, especially with kids, they communicate maybe differently than when we were kids? And so how do we when I think about communication, I think about channels. I know there's probably more than that, but how do we bridge the gap between parents and kids and with the communication piece?
That's a really good question. But I fall back to the old traditional family meeting, which it doesn't have to be a formal family meeting. But I like to do a Sunday evening, gather around the table. We're eating dinner together because I don't know about most families, but my family, that's like the only evening we're all home and that we can all be together and eat. So we gather around, and as we're eating, it's just very informal. Okay, what's going on this week? Who has projects? Who's carpooling with who needs a ride where? Is there any traveling going on with myself or my husband's work? And so we just kind of go through our schedule so everybody knows what's happening for the week.
Right. Well, that's a great task. Now, how many kids do you have?
I have 4,
okay.
But I have 2 are in college and 2 are at home.
Okay, so maybe it's a little easier to get all 4. I mean, because even now with activities and even Sundays are not sacred anymore. People are pulling you they find, I think there's people out there that find that one free hour a week you have, and then they try to gobble it up.
Right. And you know what? If Sunday doesn't work, then maybe it's Sunday morning breakfast. Maybe it's Monday morning breakfast when we're all gearing up for the week and we just need to have a little bit of communication on what's going on for the week. But you've got to make the time for that. Otherwise, things are, if we keep delaying it, then things just get missed and get put off. And then there's no communication at all, which that tends to be the late trip to the store to buy poster board for a project due tomorrow, which is always not the situation you want to be in.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk about, I'm sure if we're having a meeting, we need kind of an agenda, correct? So
yes.
What are some of the things we talk about at that weekly family meeting?
So I'm at the point where my kids are in high school. So I'm typically asking them, okay, what big tests do you guys have this week? Do you have any projects, work schedules? Does anybody need a ride somewhere? That's the stuff I'm talking about. But for smaller kids, it could be kind of the same type of thing, but it's telling them more, okay, we're carpooling with so and so. So this parent's picking you up here. You guys have these activities this week. And so it's really just keeping them informed. But then I would also say let's toss in some meal planning
Mm.
because then the parents cooking aren't the ones making all the decisions. You can say, okay, what do you guys want for dinner this week? What sounds good? And then it's a little bit of input from them and some buy in so that when meals are put out on the table, they're happy
Yeah.
and they want to eat it.
Yeah.
And then it's also can be a little bit proactive on the grocery list. So I'm a huge fan of getting kids involved in maintaining what's in the house on groceries. And then you can let them know when you're going to go grocery shopping so they can make sure they have things on the list.
Yeah, I know that we do that tip particularly with our kids, and because it also helps the mom who's usually stuck with making the menu to come up with ideas. So
Yes.
and then also the secondary benefit, you don't get the people complaining like, well, I didn't want to have this. Well, no, you were the one that asked for this in the first place. So yeah,
Right.
that's a great
It
tip.
also, yeah, and it also carries into nutrition because, like my 15-year-old son, he asks for hot dogs every single week. And I am always like, you know what? We're not having hot dogs every week. So let's come up with something a little healthier. And then,
Pizza then,
you know,
right?
right, right, yeah. That's him. That's totally him. Pizza, chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But anyway, it's an opportunity to have those conversations of, we can do that every once in a while, but let's stick to some healthier options.
Right.
And then, it's a little bit of a teaching moment too.
Now, here's what we do, and I don't know if you're recommending this. We actually make the menu up kind of at that point. Actually say, okay, this Monday we're going to have this, Tuesday we're going to have this, and okay, I need 3 more lunches. Okay, and then
Right.
we until we've got that menu put together. So, are you making a shopping list and a menu while you're doing this, or not?
Well, you can. My shopping list, yes. If you so the meeting is just the conversation.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the starter. I'm not a real big fan of writing a list while you're eating dinner at the meeting.
Yeah.
So it's more of, okay, here's some ideas. And we usually only plan 3 or 4 meals the week because then you have leftovers. And then, we always have the standby grilled cheese or sandwiches, so that we have those standard fill-ins
Right.
for if we need some food. But just getting those 3 things, then telling them shopping days so that they can add things to the list because I'm a huge fan of parents not having to maintain the snack cupboard. Uh, if they're out of a snack, then if it gets on the list, it gets bought. But if it's not on the list, then they'll have to wait till next time I go
Yeah.
shopping. 'Cause, like, and they're not going to starve.
Right.
That's what I've learned.
Yes. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, I want to
Okay.
talk a little bit more about this weekly meeting and how the kids kind of remember what they said, especially when it gets down to scheduling and how you manage the schedules. So we're with
Okay.
Amy Tokus, freshlyorganized.com, talking about organizing families, and we'll be right back. It's the summer sale at myorganized.life. 25% off office products like file folders, hanging files, accordion files, and presentation products. Click now for the coupon code. It's 25% off during our summer sale at myorganized.life. That's myorganized.life. 25% off. It's the summer sale at myorganized.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about organizing families. The huge task, it involves many things. We're kind of on the communication phase right now and talking with Amy Tokus from Freshly Organized about this weekly meeting, Sunday night or whenever it works when you can get everybody together for maybe an hour. I think Sunday night does work well because, I don't know, Amy, what is it about Sundays that it's kind of like people think the week is starting and they can get a fresh start, freshly organized by
Right, right.
starting on Sunday, right?
Yeah. Sunday is just kind of, it's a great time to wrap up everything from last week and set yourself up for a good week. You can do your meal planning your shopping, possibly.
Hmm.
You can, and just kind of connect with your family and make sure everybody's in a good place starting the next week.
Right.
Laundry. I mean, it's a really good time to remind the kids, if you guys have laundry, if you need something to wear tomorrow,
Yep,
today's a
absolutely.
good day
This
to do
would
your
be a good
laundry.
day, right? How about
Right.
coordinating everybody's schedule? Because you're sitting there, you say, okay, you got soccer on Tuesday, I've got this meeting on this day, and you need a ride. We talked about that a little bit before, but how do you actually calendar it all out? Do you have one master calendar? Are you using electronic, or do you have that big one that sits on the refrigerator? And how do the kids help maintain the accuracy of that?
That's a great question. And I encourage every family to do what works for them.
Okay.
So some families are very digital oriented and they put calendars in and they share calendars. I worked with a family once and they had two children and their kids each had their own calendar and they shared it with the parents so the parents could keep updated on everything that they need to communicate back and forth and they could add things also. I'm a fan where I use a digital calendar for what I need, and I will have my calendar out when we're having our family meeting. But my kids are very visual, so they don't like my calendar, my stuff on their calendar. So
Yes.
they like the magnetic. We have something on our refrigerator that's just a magnet, and it has a month. It's a very basic, and they put on there the things that I need to know. And then it also comes up in the conversation on Sunday. So just to make sure it's on my calendar and they've put it on that calendar and vice versa. It's just kind of that's our time to sync our calendars also.
Right. Well, with your youngest being 15, you're almost to that point where you don't have to drive people around anymore, right? I mean, that's a
Correct.
nice stage to have. But boy, that driving around and trying to coordinate cars and people, and I'll drop you off first, then run
Yeah.
over and get that person, that can be a challenge. Is there anything
Right.
else in the weekly meeting? You talked about the menu planning and the kind of the schedule kind of
Let me
stuff.
see.
What else would you talk about in that weekly meeting?
Um, it's really, I think that's about it. We talk about schedule, we talk about projects, we talk about traveling, what's going on with mom and dad, arranging carpools, meal planning. It's just really the basics to get the family situated for the next week
Right.
and then possibly long term. So, possibly if something comes up, like yesterday, my daughter was talking to us about she's going to study abroad. She's in college and wants to study abroad a semester. So we were thinking about the logistics of traveling to see her when she's studying. So, it's just kind of can be a whole family type of discussion around what's the week and future look like. Now, what we're trying to avoid in this meeting is being reactive. We're trying to
Mhm.
be proactive and trying to plan and not be reactive, which keeps us from being reactive in the last minute so that we're not, it helps us not be angry and frustrated if we have a little bit of a plan in place.
Yeah.
And then when the little things do come up, they're not as big of a deal.
How about this one? We haven't really touched on it. It could be a whole nother podcast, but on conflict resolution, because it seems like when we get together as a family, sometimes before we can get to the meal planning and some of that other stuff, a couple people have to iron some differences out. Do you do that
So
at your family meeting at all?
we don't.
Okay.
We're pretty laid back, our family.
Okay. Well,
It's
that's
more
good.
of a,
You're
yeah,
from
yeah, okay,
Omaha. Of
that sounds
course you
good.
are, right? Yeah. Nice.
We don't have a lot of conflict at our dinner tables, but occasionally there is a little bit. I, I just was like, I'm always be nice. Just be nice to each other. That's all I ask.
No, yeah, I know. And well, as long as you buy them the snacks they want, then they're going to be nice, right? Isn't that
You're
kind
right.
of how it works?
Well, well, but so here's the part. This grocery list,
Yeah.
I am telling you what, if you can have your family adding things to the grocery list through the week, that's going to solve so much of conflict going on in your house
Yeah.
because it's their responsibility to get it on the list. And if they get it on the list and you buy it, then you're done.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
we do the similar thing. We have the list on there, and you just don't want to yell at someone if they forget, if they're the last one to use something and they don't put it on the list. But hopefully, you get people to be, if they want to have that, whatever it is, chocolate milk again, then you better put it on the list. Otherwise, it's probably not going to get purchased. So you need to let us know
Right.
what's going on, right?
Right. And
Right.
it helps with your inventory system too, because if you're not guessing what you need, then you're not buying extra of stuff.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're kind of out of time for this episode, and I know
Okay.
there's more we want to talk about, especially around the areas of, independence and some things like that that it takes when you're organizing a family. So you're willing to come back next time?
I would love to.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, tell people about your business, how they can get a hold of you, and what kind of services you provide.
All right. We are freshly organized in Omaha, Nebraska, and we have a whole team of organizers that help families get organized. We do project management, productivity. We have the whole gamut of productivity and organization in our business, so we can help with anything.
Great. Freshlyorganized.com. Well,
Yes.
Amy, great. I'm excited to get back to the next. We've kind of got our week scheduled here now because of the family
All
meeting,
right.
but I know there's more to organizing a family than just getting together for 1 hour a week. So we'll do
Yes.
that next time on Keeping You Organized.